I'm getting ready to start on the end cabinet, the upper end cabinet on that end of the chop saw station. Yesterday I came out and I made the door to cover this end cabinet. And I'll quickly run through how I did that. Normally I take the sheet outside and cut it up on my sawhorses, but it was raining out yesterday, so I had to do it in here. This is 3/4 inch maple like the rest of the cabinet, and what I want to get from this are the door fronts for the two upper end cabinets that I made earlier. So I cut it off to 27.5 inches, and that's the rough length, and then I trimmed it down to final size on the table side. This is generally the way I like to do it. I never try to cut full sheets on the table saw. After I got the door panel cut to size, I take the time to edge band it all the way around. And if you'd like more detail on how I did that, there's a link in the description to a video I made specifically about that. I'm going to be using hinges that I'm recycling from my old kitchen cabinets. And here I'm just laying out the whole locations, 3 inches down from the top of the door and 15/16 in from the edge. These are pretty good hinges, and they just clip to the mounting plate inside the cabinet. And then I can adjust the hinges to make the door line up with the cabinet. And then some sanding to clean up the edges and the face before giving it a coat of water-based polyurethane. Rather than the handle, I just routed a finger groove on the edge before giving the door the second coat of polyurethane. I'm not sure if it makes much of a difference, but I put some weather stripping tape around the opening for the door to close against. The idea is that may block some of the sound from the vacuum cleaner. Okay, so I got the vacuum in that one over there. That's completely used up. This one over here, I want to do something different with it. I don't want to have a cabinet, like a cupboard with a door and shelves inside there. The problem with shelves is that, you know, stuff gets stuck in the back there. It gets all cluttered up, and you really only can use the first 2 or 3 inches of the shelf, actually, unless you're putting bigger stuff in there. So it's really limited. The other option is to make drawers, but I don't like drawers at this height. I think it's too awkward to pull them out and try to, you know, crane your neck in over or reach into them. So I've got a different idea, and it's kind of like a drawer, except it's vertical and it will slide out. It will be a panel, actually, kind of like a tool wall, a mini tool wall on drawer slides that slides out, and then you can put whatever you want right onto that panel and a front on it and slide it back in. So I'm going to measure this up, and I got 25.5 high and it's 16 3/4 inches deep. So the panel will be 25 inches tall and 16 inches deep. All right, so this is what I mean right here. Gone ahead and put this one in already, and just pull straight out like that. And the idea is that whatever you're going to access will be mounted on the board here. Could be used, you know, just the same way as a tool wall would, with tool holders on here. Or it could have bins on here for screws or whatever you want to put there. I want to put 3 of these in this space though. 1 here and 1 in here and 1 in the middle roughly. I want one of these to be thinner, because I want one of these to have the router bits that I use mounted on it, because this space down under here eventually will hold my new router table. Well, I decided to make this panel right here the one for my router bits, so I'm going to space the divider that I need to mount the next one on about 5 inches away from that. That'll give me lots of depth there to build a rack to put the router bits on. And the divider itself are just a couple of pieces of 3/4 inch plywood that I'm not going to glue down. I'm just going to screw in place. I've drilled holes down through for the screws, and the reason why I don't want to glue it is in case I want to change this at some point in the future. All I need to do is undo the screws and make the change without, having to smash everything up. I'm using 16-inch full extension drawer slides, and I've broken 2 down, and I'm going to attach this part to the top of the panel and the other one to the bottom of the panel with 1/2-inch screws. To mount this side of the slide, I've cut spacer blocks that lift it up off the bottom. I'm just going to hold it in place here, drill a couple of holes, and then drive in the screws. Now that I got the bottom one attached, I can just put it in on the bottom. That way I can line up the top side just by holding it in place, putting a clamp on temporarily until I get a screw in. Well, I went ahead and I put the last one in, and now what I need to do is make the fronts for each one. This one is the narrowest one. That'll be 6.5 inches. I'm going to take the other piece of plywood that I cut off in the beginning and rip that to 6.5. Then the other two will be equal size. I think it's 8 3/4. Now it's kind of boring, but I got to do it. I'm going to edge band all 3 panels on all 4 edges before I put them on. So I'll be right back. All right, I've got them all edge banded, and I've got them lined up here and across the front. And what I'm going to do is attach them to the panel underneath. And the way I'm going to do that is just with screws, actually, driven right through the face and into the edge of the 1/2-inch plywood. You're probably saying, wow, screws, that's not going to look very good. But you won't be able to see the screws because that's where I'm going to put the handle, actually. It's going to cover those screws right over. Okay, well, I've got all the fronts put on, and I'm putting the handles on. I've already got 2 put on. Little tricky putting the fronts on, mainly because of the plywood I use is 1/2 inch thick. If I had my time back, I would have used 3/4. Would have been more area for the front to attach to. Not only that, the 3/4 would probably stay flatter. This plywood is not known for staying flat. So it's kind of all over the place. Just going to put this in here. I've already got marks put on there, line it up with. And then rather than clamp it, I'm just going to drive in a couple of pins, one at the top and one at the bottom. I'm going to give the glue about a 1/2 hour to dry, and then I'm going to give the whole thing a couple of coats of water-based polyurethane, just like the rest of the unit here. That's the way I'm handling that, is painting it as I go. Each time I add a new thing, I'll give it a couple of coats of urethane. Anyway, this one should be dry enough for me to show how it works. You open it up, and everything that you need is right inside here, right in front of you. Another way to do this would be, and it would be, fairly interesting, is to actually hinge the front so that not only, does it clump out and open all the way this way, the front could also hinge as well and go flat, and then there'll be stuff on the back of that. But for this, I think this is going to be all right. I can put all my router bits in here, and I close it up. It's in there, dust free. Whenever I need something, just open it up, grab it, and then when I'm finished, I can put it right back in where it belongs.